So, if I asked you, our listeners, if you would step into a challenge of walking consistently 5 miles a day for 1,000 days, how does that make you feel? And we have a very special guest today, Teri Murray, who has done that. And so we're going to explore with Teri all about what inspired her to do that, how it was for her to walk this path, literally, and what she's doing now after the 1,000th day. What next? And so, welcome to Navigating Nourishment. My name is Wendy Bright Fallon.
And I'm Debbie Peterson. Welcome.
We're so happy to have you, Teri. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you and I actually met on a boat on the Toms River with mutual friends. And I think it was in the course of that first conversation, I kind of heard this thing about 5 miles a day. And you were, I think at that point, because it was last year. So I don't remember where you were in the time, but ever since then, and as I've seen,
let's just guess about 600 and something.
Okay.
It was about 365 days ago.
Yeah, exactly.
You can guesstimate.
And so you were kind of in the middle of the grind. So tell us about this adventure, this walking adventure that you created for yourself.
So, I mean, it's evolved and it's been kind of just such a journey for me and for so many people that have been following me for 1,000 days, which today was 1,020. But it's funny that I just want to go back to that story of the day I met you, because it's a perfect example of how I made it work. Rick, who had invited us on the boat, he had invited like 5 days earlier, and I was traveling a lot for work and I had forgotten, and I flew back from, I want to say, St. Louis that day. And I went to start on my 5 mile walk. And he's like, "Aren't you coming to the boat?" As I walked by, and I was like, "What? Oh my gosh, it's Wednesday." And so now it's a 6 p.m. and I'm panicking. Like, how am I going to do both? So I literally ran as much as I could. And I don't run anymore, but I was like, I have got to get as many miles in as I can. So I think I got 3 miles in. Quick changed, raced to the boat, hung out on the boat, did the race with y'all, trying to be relaxed, but knowing I was going to have to do this. And as soon as we got back in the dark at 9 p.m., I'm walking the last 2 miles because I was like, gotta get it done. So it was just a perfect example of, I was like, okay, do I have 40 minutes? And I like ran as much as I could. But that has been kind of what I've done this whole time, is how can I make it work? And I might break it up. I might like just sort of make a sacrifice. Like if I was so committed at that point that I would have said, "I'm sorry, I can't make the boat. I'm so sorry." Like I wasn't going to skip all of a sudden, but I have always, in 1,000 days, flying all over the world. I live in two different coasts, so I travel back and forth from California to New Jersey, and I've not had to make an excuse and why I couldn't do it. And so that has been the thing that I think has inspired so many people, like moms, people that work full time. It's so easy to say, "Oh, today was too much. I had family that visited, blah, 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 blah." But I'm like, I can always carve out the little pieces of time to whatever goal it is, whether it's walking, yoga, meditating, working on your art, working on a book you're trying to write. There's always a way to carve out that time. So that's been just kind of bringing it back to the end, like one of the most important things that has come out of my commitment to the walk. But it did not start out as I'm going to go walk 5 miles for 1,000 days, like somebody that's going to go walk the Appalachian Trail or something. It's just sort of snowballed. And then I was like, well, then I hit this milestone. I'm like, well, I guess I'll hit this milestone. And then 3 years later, I'm still walking.
Yeah.
I kind of love that it didn't start out with the challenge of 1,000 days, because that to me sounds personally overwhelming. It's so big.
Yeah.
It's such a big thing. So it started out with one day at a time.
Yeah, it started out, here's the story. In COVID, we all, COVID was tough, and I was in California when COVID hit. So super, super conservative lockdown where I was. And I mean, they had fences on the, I live by the beach. They had fences where you couldn't even walk to the beach. So it was like you were stuck indoors. And I was living with my boyfriend, and after 3 or 4 months of stuck together, we were like, I don't think this is the future. So great amicable breakup. But I came back to Jersey, where my family is and where I grew up, to give him time to find a place and move out and to be able to be with family. And I live in this amazing town that you live in as well. And it's just all hills, and it's a 3 mile loop around, or you can do the hills. It's all water around it, and it's ideal for running and walking.
Yeah.
So I just decided one day I'm going to go for a walk to clear my head. And then I went the next day, and then he was trying to like call, and he'd be like, maybe I can talk to you on your walk. And then I started to say, no, my walk is my walk. And I put like a boundary, and that has been like really great, because like family will be like, I need you to come over and do it. Sorry, I have to finish my walk. And everyone started to like really respect that I have to get this walk done, which is another lesson, that when everyone's like putting family and coworkers and bosses and everything out, church, whatever, PTA, the football team that their kids are on, they put everything first. And then the one thing that they don't leave time for is themselves. So I knew I was I started to carve out this walk, and then I started to feel better. And then, but I'd miss a day. Like I'd work, 10 days straight, and I had to miss a day, and it wasn't a big deal. But I really started after, I would say for like 6 months. I started the walk in the beginning of July of 2020. And I started to almost never miss, to where I lost weight. I was calmer, happier, things that would have set me off. I'm a very like short fuse, high, like I run hot. I was more just like lax about, I just couldn't believe how much I saw a change in myself, and people saw in me like, you're so skinny. Oh my God, what are you doing? And then I started eating healthier, which all helped. And then, that's just how it went. And one day it would be 3 miles, one day it would be 5 miles, and it would just became a daily walk that I enjoyed. And I got so much out of it. And then I would go golf, right? I would walk 5 miles, golf for 8 holes, go out drinking, go to bed, and wake up and do it again. And everyone's like, you're like the Energizer Bunny. I'm like, well, I keep moving, and that's why I can keep moving. Like, it's like I'm winding my battery back up. So I sort of just stumbled into this. And, other people that, as you know, do a walk know how many benefits it gives you. But I just sort of figured it out. I sort of stumbled into this. And then the streak started, where it was Thanksgiving weekend of 2020, and I was back in LA, and COVID flared up, and my family did not want me to come back and possibly give it to them. So I was stuck in California by myself for Thanksgiving. So I decided to make it a golf staycation, and I tried to golf all 5 days. And the Saturday of that week, we went to Ojai, which is about an hour and a half drive to golf. So I just chose not to do the walk that day, right? And, it was a full day. The next morning, I was on my walk, and I thought, I didn't need to skip yesterday. Like, I could have made it work. Like I made an excuse, and I just said, I'm going to not skip. And I didn't have an end date. I just said, I'm going to try and not make an excuse. I couldn't even tell you what I was thinking in terms of when it would end, but it was just a commitment I made, because I just knew, I was like, I didn't need to skip yesterday, and I think we've all done that, like you all day, you're like, I'm gonna go to the gym, and then you get tired and you go to the gym the next day. It's like, I should have just gone to the gym. Why didn't I just go to the gym? It's like that feeling. And so that's when it started. November 29th, 2020. Haven't missed a walk since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What strikes me the most, I'd say, about that story is the snowball effect. It seems simple. You walk every day for 5 miles, and if you have extra weight on you, yeah, it may come off. But it wasn't just that. It's like, because of that, so many other things happened, and that's the hardest part to describe to people when you're trying to get them to take on a new habit or a new something. It's not just that little isolated thing. It's not just one thing you do it causes a whole array of wonderful things because of doing that. And you would never have known that had you not done it.
Yeah.
Totally.
And
as we were talking,
go ahead.
I was going to say, as we were talking about the sign on my wall that says success does not come from what you do occasionally. Success comes from what you do consistently. And that is when people are like, I've been walking a lot. It's like, yeah, but when you walk on the, or whatever, gym, whatever you're picking, when you do it on the days you don't want to do it, that's where the magic happens. It's not because, hey, I got free time, maybe I'll just go for a walk at a nice casual pace. Like I halt, like I'm walking. And that's been, and it didn't start that way. It just I got faster and faster to the point where it was like, I don't want to walk slower. Like I'm stronger, I have more endurance. And then I got injured. And around 690 days, it totally derailed me. But I still, a normal person would have stopped walking. And I was so invested that I was like, well, I can't stop. So I modified. I walked slower. I stretched more. I iced. I broke it up. I went to PT. I took anti-inflammatories, which I hate to take drugs because they screw with my stomach. So I finally caved after 3 doctors told me to do it. And it did help bring the inflammation down. I got laser treatment from a chiropractor. I mean, I did everything to try and be able to continue walking while trying to rehab these like injuries. And they were severe. I had like a medium grade partial tear in my gluteus minimus, a labrum tear, bursitis, which is inflamed bursa on your hip. Like I was a hot mess. And everyone's like, you should just rest. It's like, no, I'm just walking. I'm not running.
I'm so kind of in awe that you did not listen to the other people. You really listened to your own voice. Like this is a commitment that I've made, and it wasn't for anybody else. It was for you, which I think is a truly beautiful thing because we end up sacrificing ourselves so much for other people's needs. We so often put everything else in front, and all it is, as you've so eloquently said, is excuses. They are literally excuses for us not to show up for ourselves. And as Debbie and I coach with our clients all the time, we are setting examples for other people in everything that we do. And as you pointed out, people are watching. It's now not just family that's watching you, right? It's neighbors, it's random strangers on a boat that are like, hey, I call Rick, I'm like, how are you doing, So
people will drive by me and be like, what day is it? Like it's hysterical.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
It's such a fantastic ripple effect that you're creating too. And so no excuses. And I also heard you talk a lot about boundaries and how the walk became like sacred time for you. It was kind of not just a walk to tick it off, right? Not just a walk to say, 990 days, but it was something so much more. And one of the things
there were plenty of days that it was just ticking off a box, trust me.
Of course.
Yeah. But in the long run it wasn't, and that's what we did. Yeah,
right. And I didn't start it because I was okay, I'm gonna go walk this goal of 1,000 days. It just sort of turned into that, but it was all of I knew on the days I didn't want to go how good it was for me that I did it anyway. And they say 21 days to make a habit. I'm 1,020. So I think this is past the streak, because I will say there was a lot of pressure rolling into 1,000. Like it was just like, oh God, I hope this, I have a bunion that probably needs surgery. Like I am not without injury. My knee swells up. I've had arthritis because I was a gymnast as a kid. So I'm definitely somebody that has to suffer through pain, but I don't make excuses. But I did consult these doctors and they were like, you're not doing permanent damage. So, if someone said you might not be able to walk in 5 years, like I was not going to be an idiot. I was going to listen, but I was like, am I okay if I keep walking? Because no one was saying you have to be on bed rest, so I walked very slow. I broke it up 1 mile at a time. I came home, I iced, I stretched, and then I walked another mile. It took forever and I didn't enjoy those days, but once I got past them, I was back rolling on my walk.
And I imagine because of the walking, you healed quicker, you're a little bit more resilient because of that as well. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I can't, so many people get thrown off by an injury, and it's months and months and months and months because they weren't resilient. They didn't have habits that nourished them, and they didn't
Right.
have practices that for themselves. So,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
movement is medicine. It's like, it's just amazing if you move your body in some way. Like, even if you're too old to walk, if you swim, if you move, it is literally like releasing nitric oxide in your body. I mean, it's just so good for you. And I will tell you, I have not been sick in 3 years. And people are like, what happens when you're sick? And I'm like, I don't get sick. And I know I never got COVID, or at least never tested positive for COVID, but I have never been sick. I've been hungover and I've still walked. And I will tell you, after 5 miles, it's like I never drank. Like, it's amazing.
Cool.
The first 3 are like, oh God. But like 4 and 5, you're like, all right, I'm good. I do remember one Saturday here, and it was rainy, it was a rainy day on a Saturday, and it was kind of cold out, and I could have stayed on my couch with my dog binging Netflix all day. Would have been perfect. And I thankfully did not have to walk outside because my sister lives 2 blocks away and has a treadmill. But I made myself in the middle of the day in the rain, go to her house, walk my 5 on her treadmill, watch Netflix. And then I came home and went back to my couch to veg out. But there's no way, if I didn't have the commitment to the walk, the Teri 3 years ago would have done that. That would have been a day I would have said, today's a rest day, 100%.
Yeah.
And I see that in myself now. And the streak got me to where I'm now. You've been brushing your teeth every day since you were a kid, and you don't even question it. You might skip one. I don't know if you fell asleep too soon, but you really don't make excuses. It's part of your life. And that's what after 1,000 days, it's like, I'm past the streak. I'm not like super stressed out about it anymore. I'm like, I'm about to drive my car from California to Jersey. I'm not looking forward to it with my dog. So I'm ready to have, I might have to, if I'm driving for 12 hours and I have the dog, I don't know if I'll be able to get 5 miles in, and I won't beat myself up over it, but I know I'll walk 2 to 3. I know I will, because sitting in a car for 12 hours will kill me after my body's been moving for 3 years. So,
and the dog needs to walk too.
Yeah. Well, she's little, so she'll only do like a mile. She doesn't go.
What resonates with me so much is when I got my first dog 10 years ago, it was the first time that I actually walked, because I was a runner. And when I was running and I'd see people walking, I was like, why bother? Like, what's like, why? It's so silly. Just run. Like, I couldn't understand
waste of time.
Walking.
Totally.
Yeah, what a waste of time. But then I got a dog, and I wasn't going to run with her all the time. And so I walked, and little did I know all the treasures that would happen in my life from just walking and being out in the world.
Do you walk every day too?
I walk every day because I have a dog. Mostly that's why. But even in between my dogs, because my dog passed away, and before I got a new dog, I had to walk. I was so used to walking. I didn't want to not walk anymore. And so I did walk. I think I maybe missed a day here and there between the 2 dogs, the 6 months between, but it was just like that, because it's the benefits that there's some of them are intangible or even indescribable. You can't really, you can't, it's just being out there. It's being, whether you see people or you don't see people, it's weather, it's nature,
the fresh air, vitamin D from the sun. Yeah.
It's moving your body. It's like it's indescribable in so many ways.
Yeah. And they say, when you look at like the blue zones, like all the things that make these centurions,
Yep.
Whatever. But their movement is huge. Obviously eating
absolutely
more of a Mediterranean diet, but community. And like you said, I might not see people, but or that I know, but I live in Island Heights, we see everybody, like we know it's like mayoring down the street.
Yes.
And then I live in Santa Monica, and I walk the bike path, and I see regulars, like we kind of like recognize each other. I also run into friends, but I might not know a soul for the whole walk, but I'm watching people play beach volleyball and other people are
Yep.
running and they
Yep.
have their dog, and you're just,
Yep.
you feel like you're part of a community, which I think
Absolutely.
is huge. So like,
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yep.
I couldn't
Yep.
recommend it more. And I've had so many friends over these 3 years where they'd be in a rut, like posting things like clearly down, and I'll call and be like, listen, just go for a walk. And then I'd get them on a walking streak, and then I'd watch them go from like really depressed to like super positive and like come out of their hole. I've had people trying to mimic my walk. They saw the benefits in me, but they weren't committed to it for their own reason, and then
Yeah.
they keep failing.
Mhm.
And like, it's like, you have to want to do it. So, but then it's funny because I have two good friends in LA. And they all like laugh at everyone knows about my walk, but I met one of them in CrossFit. I used to do CrossFit, so I don't even do CrossFit anymore. And but she's still in CrossFit, and her husband was in CrossFit. And I guess everyone's like, oh, Teri and her walk. But then eventually his cardiologist was like, you need to, gaining weight and his heart health, you need to quit CrossFit and start going on a 45-minute walk. So he started a daily walk about 5 miles. He's lost a ton of weight. Everyone's like, what are you doing? And like, I'm like, hello. And so everyone's like, Dima's on Teri's plan.
I like it.
So, but
There you go.
he's embraced it and he loves it. He does it in the morning. He's getting out of it what I got out of it. But again, if you don't decide to do it yourself, it's like someone forcing you to do it, and that's where it's not going to work. And it doesn't have to be a walk. It could be a bike ride. It could be rollerblading. It could be swimming. It could be yoga. It's just doing something every day. I choose walking to what you said about running is because I can do it every day. I don't need to recover. And I was a runner. I was an idiot. I ran a marathon without training. I just ran because that's how stubborn I am. And it like broke my knees. But and that's another reason I landed on 5. Somebody asked me why 5. Because I burned the same amount of calories walking 5 at my fast pace as I did running 3. And when I was a runner, I did 3 miles, 5 days a week. That was like my standard run 10 years ago. And so that was where I was like, okay, if I want to burn the same amount of calories without killing my joints, I'll just do 5. And, it's more of a time commitment, but I don't recommend 5 if you don't have the time, because you will burn out. But there's no reason you can't walk 30 minutes every single day. There's just no reason.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for some people, they need to just start with 5. It's that small sometimes for some people, just to get off the couch and to start moving.
5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
I thought you meant 5 miles. I was
No,
like,
no.
Okay, yeah. Some of them just jump right in.
No,
That's
5
what
minutes. Debbie, don't you have a story of either a client or one of your mom's clients who just
I do.
walked to, tell that story.
And I think I've told this on the podcast, but why not again? it was one of my mom's clients, and she was a psychotherapist, and she was morbidly obese. And I'm this is the basic memory of the story. It's probably changed over time, but the story is basically the same. She was morbidly obese and wasn't doing anything except because she put herself into this condition that she couldn't really do anything, and her life became more narrow and narrow. And her mother passed away, and she was thrown into horrible grief on top of her already depression. And just out of being despondent, one day she walked out her door and walked, I think, to part her, like maybe to halfway down her driveway. And I don't know what happened in her mind, but she said, okay, I'm going to do that again tomorrow. And she did it again. And then after a few days, she could get to the end of her driveway. And then after a week, she could walk, maybe a little bit up the street. And day after day, it just got longer and longer and longer. And there's no miraculous story of she lost all of the weight and her life was wonderful. But her mechanism to cope with her grief and her depression was to walk, and it worked. And she did take off weight, and her life got better just simply from getting outside every day.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah.
There's a woman in town. I don't know if you know her, Wendy. She worked at the grade school when I was there, and she was probably morbidly obese when I was a kid. But 30 years later, She has dropped all the weight. She's been walking you see her walk every day outside, and she's been walking for years. And
I
she's
think
commented on my Facebook page, like, I walk every day. And you can see that she has like drastic, I probably lost 200 pounds.
yeah.
And it didn't happen in a week, right? It was
No.
just chipping away at it and being
Yep,
consistent.
exactly.
And now she's healthier. She has a better life. And I don't know the details because I don't know her that well anymore, but similar story where, you know,
Right.
it's
And
everyone in town knows her.
yeah, and what I've recognized in her is that her smile got bigger and bigger.
Yes.
Every time I
Well,
saw her, like over time, her smile just
100%.
and her just like her energy orb, you know, walking down the street she became lit up. It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Because and there's so many of that, but a lot of that too is you're empowered. She was empowered that she was taking her life back and like there's just so many things that come from it that I cannot recommend it enough, especially women my age. I'm in my 40s. You know, our hormones are shifting. You know, you can't just like cut out a bagel and lose 5 pounds. Like that consistency of the walking, it helps with stress. And stress is a huge reason why women can't lose weight in their 40s and 50s and 60s. And so it's like
100%.
it's like, I mean, there's days to my boundary, there's days where I have to walk in the middle of the day and I take calls on my walk. I've let that boundary open because I have to multitask. But if there's a day where I'm super stressed about work and it's like, I'm like literally losing my mind, then I set the boundary and my walk helps me clear my mind from my work. So if I'm fine, I'm like, sure, I can take that call. But if I want to like throw something through the window, I am going on a walk and then I can handle it better when I get back.
Yeah.
So
Yep, so
thing.
true. You know, what you're talking about in so many ways is that we have, I don't know if Wendy's told you, but in our practice, we have what we call the 5 foundations of health. And the first one being nutrition, second, sleep, third, movement, fourth, mindset, and 5, connection. And a daily habit of walking pretty much touches on all of them. It maybe indirectly, like I'm thinking of nutrition, but if you're walking every day and you're feeling good, you're going to make better choices about what you're 100%. Eating. Like you said, you did. You know, it helps you sleep better. Of course, you're moving. That's the obvious one. But the mindset, just it's a moving meditation often. And even if it's not, you're getting out into nature. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. You're getting endorphins. And like you said before, it's community. It touches every single one of our foundations. It's just this simple practice of moving the way we're meant to move in a way that doesn't hurt us. It's not taxing. It doesn't hurt us. You know, that's what we're meant to do. If anything, we're supposed to be walking.
Right. Yeah. And it can also be community if you go with someone else. So for a long time, it was like, hey, let's grab a drink. We haven't seen each other in a while. And now it's, hey, you want to go for a walk? And like every single person in my life has asked to join my walk. And many of them don't come twice because I walk fast. A lot of people don't want to come again because I'm like,
well, and you've got long legs too. You're tall. And so, I'd be like this next to you.
Yeah, right.
I have a friend, we golf and he's a major athlete. And he was like, how fast do you walk? And I was like, I mean, prior to my hip injury, I was like a sub 14-minute mile. Like I did all 5 with hills. So like I could be 13, 40 minute mile.
That is fast. That's fast.
Always under 15 minutes. And that's just me. Like, that's not me like huffing. That's just what I had worked up to, to. And then I was like at 18 minutes, you know, and after the hip. So it was taking a lot longer. Today I did all the hills in 15-minute mile. So I'm getting better, but
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, I also think that's part of it. If people are saying it's not working for them and they're just casually, slowly strolling, and I'm like, you know, you have to add like resistance or time in order to have progress. So you either walk farther, walk longer, walk faster, but you can't just expect change if you're just walking out to get the mail back. I mean, you can if that's your building, but once she got to the end of the driveway, she didn't just go to the end of the driveway every day. She went farther. So for me, I started to go faster. So it's like, if you don't pick up the pace a little bit, beyond your comfort zone. Like I'm out of my comfort zone. And then the days I don't want to walk, or the days I'm just, my ankle hurts or whatever, I walk slower. So instead of making excuse, my rest is I just don't push myself like I normally do,
Yeah.
but I still do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So recently, my husband and I started rucking. So we got the Go Ruck packs and everything, and that has definitely added the resistance that, you know, it up leveled our walks and made some change, and it feels great. So changing things up, I think, is so important, because no matter how many days streak you have, if we don't build in some sort of shift, we'll either get bored or burn out or not. We might plateau. You know, a lot of people talk about this plateau they have in either their strength and conditioning or in their weight journey, that sort of thing. And if we don't make any kind of shift or change, we're probably going to stay the same. So
Yeah,
the Go Ruck has been kind of fun.
I know.
And
I remember I asked you guys, I was like, what are you training for? I'd see them walking with their, I'm like, are you hiking Kilimanjaro? I want to come.
Just
Where are
training.
you going?
just try, you know, getting stronger to live a long life. It's what it's about. And 100% of
Longevity and
the time.
Yep.
What's
I
that?
said longevity and resilience. That's
Yeah.
that's all we want, right?
That's right. And 100% of the time after we move, 100% of the time, for me, I can say for me and for my husband, I feel better. And part of that is the mindset. Part of that is that I welcome it. I'm like, bring it on, instead of it being either a drudgery or that I have to, or that I'm beating myself up because I had, you know, ice cream the day before. So it's like a punishment or something. That's not the vocabulary I have. It's like, this is nourishment for me. And it's like, I can't not do it. Yeah.
And that, but not everyone's there yet. And so I used to teach yoga, and I used to say, like, the hardest part is showing up and rolling out your mat, because once you are on the mat and you're moving and you're connecting your breath and your body, you leave. I've never left a yoga class, except Bikram once, where I thought I was going to vomit, but you've never left a yoga class going, I wish I didn't do that ever. I mean, unless you got injured, but like, you know, those are details, but because of that movement, and you feel great. And so I've never left a walk going, I wish I didn't do that. But there's plenty of ones I don't want to do. Like,
of course
I don't wake up going, can't wait to walk today for 1,000 days. There's definitely been, this is a chore. And I remember once I had to get up at 6 a.m. I could only get 2 miles in order to make my flight, or probably got up at 4 a.m. It was, I don't even remember. Flew to like Minnesota, drove 2 hours, went to a case because I'm in medical device. It was in this OR. Then I had to drive 3 hours to North Dakota, and then I walked around at night. And then I went to bed, and then I got up and walked in the morning for my next flight. Like, it was bizarre. Like, who would do that? But I like, this is the only way I can do it today. And, you know, so those aren't fun days. But
And just as an aside, all the stories that you have now because of all these walks and some of the strange things you had to do to negotiate your walk and all that, you know, that all this, it makes your life more interesting at the least, you know?
Well, it is funny how, like, I used to post, because I don't travel right now that much for work. It's just back and forth to California. But I would say from like 8 months into the walk to like a year ago, I was living on a plane and traveling. And so it was really difficult, but I was already committed. I don't know if I would have committed to this if I had in the beginning, right? If I, you know, hadn't been able to make it work and get a routine. But then the challenge of all this travel for work, I had to find a way. But I would post these stories, and I can't say how many people would reach out and be like, you inspired me today. I wasn't going to go to the gym, but I'm going to the gym because I just saw what you had to do to get your walk in today. And
there you go.
Those stories like fueled me. Like, if I ever thought of quitting, it was like, no, like, people, I'm inspiring other people to make positive changes.
They depend on you.
So it became bigger than me. Like, I was like, I can't quit now.
The ripple
ripple effect. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And that was kind
And
of the
doesn't it feel
accountability.
good
Like by putting it out there, I knew I was held
oh yeah,
accountable by like 1,000 people. Like
exactly, exactly.
everyone was wondering
But
when I
doesn't
was
it
going to miss. Good.
yeah. Yeah, so there's the doubters also, it's that's
Yeah.
that too, but doesn't it feel it's like something that just feels so good is that knowing that you inspired someone. It
Oh,
feels
it's the
so
best.
good. It warms your heart. It just makes you feel like, that I'm doing good stuff. I'm doing good stuff, and that's a really great feeling.
It was so inspiring to me that I actually pivoted and went in and got my health and wellness coach certification because of it. And then I got my life coach and my master life coach. So I did all this coach work because I ended up indirectly kind of helping and coaching people that were stuck. And so I was like, well, maybe I should, formalize this, make sure I'm doing it right. But I
Yeah.
was so inspired by how much I was inspiring others, which I didn't even realize was going to happen. That I was like, oh, maybe I should help people, like really help people, not just, hey, you should go for a
Yeah.
walk today. But I can't tell you how many I've seen people on the bike path in Santa Monica that I run into them and they're like, I saw your post yesterday and that's why I'm walking today. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then we walk together.
Yeah.
And then in Island Heights the other day, someone was like, I looked out my window and I saw you walking and I thought I should go for a walk. And we ran into each other on the walk. And I love that. Like,
Yeah.
I love it. It makes
Yep.
me happy.
It's
That's
a
great.
beautiful thing. Yeah. So Teri, do you want to share your Facebook handle, or how can people get in touch with you if they want to get some life coaching?
Yeah. Well, so I have terimurray.com, which is easy. And then my Instagram handle for coaching, and I don't do that much of it because I do work full time, but is at Teri Murray Coaching. But I'm also terrible about content. I was talking to you, I need to like step up my PR. I'm really great about posting on my personal, which is just at Teri Murray, but it's private because it was, I'm a private person. And so only my friends were really getting this benefit. So if I am going to like make it more public to the world, I do need to step that up. But anyone who's been following me for 3 years has been inspired, but it hasn't gone viral yet, which is sad because I think I saw a video or something on the news, and this guy, he said he's hiked Stone Mountain in Atlanta almost every day since COVID, and he's talked all the things we're talking about: lost weight, changed his life, different person, all this stuff, and it was like such a great story, and I was like, I love that because that's exactly what happened to me. And then someone else told me I should apply for the Guinness World Book Record, whatever. I have no idea how to even embark on applying for a Guinness Book of World Records. But yeah, so obviously I should have done more to market it to help reach more people. Oh, I didn't tell you the best story. Okay. So do you have time for this story?
Yeah.
Okay. So
this will be a great wrap up. Yeah.
So I was on another friend's podcast and he wrote a book on metabolism, and he, does a lot it's a male and he's a doctor. And so we had a long talk about my walk, and this was probably in January. So I was still I was 8 months shy of 1,000 days, but I knew that was my goal. I was like, I have to get to 1,000. And I never even heard the podcast. I didn't even know when it went on. And then maybe 2 months ago, I get an email to my coaching website from a surgeon that I knew very well, that I worked with 15 years ago, maybe, I don't even know, in San Diego. I've talked to him in 15 years. He has since moved to Idaho. I've moved to LA and whatever. And he reached out to me and I was like, what? So I called him, we caught up. He now lives in Wisconsin, and he noticed his medical assistant was losing a ton of weight. And he was like, what's going on? What are you doing? She's like, I started walking every day. This woman, Teri Murray, did this challenge. I heard it on a podcast, and he's like, Teri Murray, I know a Teri Murray. So he looks me up. It's me. He reaches out to me. So this woman in Wisconsin heard me on a podcast, started doing my walk, rain or shine, 4 a.m., because I've done it all. And her commitment, she lost enough weight for her boss to notice, and then somehow made the connection that it was me.
That's
my
great.
mind was blown. I was like,
Yeah, that's cool.
inspired a random person in Wisconsin and it has changed her life. Like, and then it brought this person and I haven't talked to in 15 years back together to, reconnect. So I was like, this is crazy. And it really did make me realize this could be and should be bigger than I've let it be, because I have a private Instagram. But maybe I'll make my Instagram public, because I'm not somebody that posts on 6 different pages. Like, I post on the one and that's it.
Yep.
But,
Yeah.
Yep.
but
Well,
yeah, I would love to help anyone that is kind of needs a little help. I know that's what you guys do as well, but if anyone else is wants to know about my walk or my story, or even like
Absolutely.
I've told people, if you tell me like I can't find time, I will sit with you and I will be able to, with your schedule, I will be able to find time.
Yeah, that's not true ever.
it's
Ever.
never true.
Maybe you
Time-
can't sleep 20 more minutes. Maybe you can't watch that you don't have that extra glass of wine the night before. Like,
Yeah.
it requires planning, discipline, some sacrifice, commitment, and just like, honestly, like, not making an excuse. Yeah, putting yourself first. Because when you have a fully charged battery and you have great energy and you don't get sick and you're like, your mind is clear and your anxiety is low, you can process better. You're a better boss, a better mom, a better wife, a better husband. And so we end up, that's like the one thing people end up putting to the side. And it's the one thing they need to be doing. Otherwise, you're just not showing up as 100%. That's my opinion. And I'm not always 100%. I'm not like a walk in the park. Like, there's days I should probably go on 2 walks, but
We're
I know
human.
that,
That's the
I know that
human side of us. Yeah.
That's
but
great.
the people in my life will definitely agree that they've seen the change. Like, I'm a different person because of it, in a better way. So yeah.
Well, I am so glad that we met on Rick and Boat. Yeah. And yeah, thank you for coming on and sharing your story with our listeners and being on Navigating Nourishment. And stay tuned for, the next adventure.
Yeah, I don't know what it'll be. Right now I'm still walking, but thank you guys so much for having me. It was great to meet you both.
Yeah, great to meet you. Yeah, inspiring for sure.
Thanks so much, Teri.
Bye.